Uh, Hello, Geoff.
Hi,
Hi, where are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Um,
I'm jealous of your backgrounds.
Wow. Hi, Geoff.
Hi.
Hi.
How's the weather there?
Today it's very, very rainy.
Raining.
Yeah. How about you?
It's sunny in Taipei, but I don't know how's the weather of Roger's place.
In Kaohsiung, it's rainy too. Wow. Geoff look very young. I think you are only 30 years old.
Well, why not? Let's go with that. Let's pretend. It's birthday season in our house at the moment. It's my wife's birthday on Thursday and my son's birthday on Sunday. My birthday later in the month. My cousin's birthday. We got a lot of birthdays in July. But sadly, I'm not 30.
So how do you think about today's interview? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm always nervous about these things, but yeah, excited. Excited generally wins.
Yeah. Before we start, I have to confirm with you that because I have mailed you about the QA part, and if we have time left, a lot of time left, we plan to have 3 online audience to raise issues or questions. But if you have a lot of to share with us and we have time, we don't have much time to let the audience ask questions. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Okay, because we think on time is very important for the interview.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very clear.
Very well. Okay.
Great.
Geoff, can we have a picture with you with cost?
Of course.
那个世志准备拍照咯。
OK， 收到。
好。
OK， smile。
好。来take a picture with Geoff 丽玲可以先退出一下哈，来，好了 ，once more， 来试字，
哎 ，OK，Thank
，OK，thank
you。
Right.
And also 丽玲。
May I have a photo with you alone?
Sure. How do we do that?
Thank you.
Okay. Li Ling is a very beautiful girl in Taiwan.
Oh, thank you.
And she's a PhD in progress. Okay. 丽玲，你们可以开始聊天了哈。
Oh, I saw you wear sweater. Is that cold in England?
It is today. Yeah, it's been very warm recently, but today it's cold for, yeah, we need a sweater today.
Oh, because it's summer in Taiwan now, so we always wear sweater or stay in a place with air conditioner. So I can imagine that in the North Pole or the sorry, I'm kind of nervous, but it's hard to me to imagine that your place is very cold now.
Yeah, we have strange weather here, but it's been very, very warm recently. And then yesterday and today, it's been cold and wet, but I think just a one-off. So hopefully back to the t-shirt tomorrow.
Yeah. It's hard to predict the weather, like everything in our life. Actually, I have when I prepare the information of you, I found that you have found Agile Mastery Institute last year. Is that
Yes.
still challenging for you
It-
at this moment?
It's a huge challenge. Yeah, it's a big challenge. Taking and challenging some well-established players in a well-established market with a new brand that is more difficult for people to obtain, possibly more lengthy, more time-consuming, more expensive. Normally, when you disrupt a market, you disrupt a market with a product that's easier or cheaper.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do the opposite. So yeah, it's challenging, but it's fun.
And what's the most part you think is the funniest that you like to like motivate you to continue this career?
I've always been someone who actually enjoys doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got into a bit of trouble in my life for just doing things differently rather than just doing things the same that everybody else has done. From when I was young, when I was at school, just because the teachers said this is what needs to be done, that wasn't a good enough reason for me. So
Yeah.
I challenged that. I challenged the status quo with Scrum, and now I'm challenging the Scrum status quo. That's kind of what motivates me. Is there's always got to be a better way, and just going along with something means that we're probably missing out on that.
As you mentioned, you have get in touch with Scrum in early years. But for me, I'm just a beginner of Scrum or Agile. What's the point that you want to know more about Scrum? What's the key point? I think I'm not good at expression, but as for the beginner, what do you think we can learn in our life or our work that we apply Scrum? Is any suggestion?
I think actually it's what we can learn from you, really, because my children are now, well, one of them is at university. They both of my elder children have been along to some of my talks and some of my workshops and things like that in the past, and they were always a bit confused as to why we've had to make such a fuss about doing things differently, because for them an agile way of working makes sense. Whereas old people like me, and I'm sure Roger won't mind me including him in this, as experienced people like Roger and I, we've had to unlearn some of the past ways of working that have been taught to us for so long, and we've institutionalized. Whereas people like yourself, the right thing is probably more natural for you than it is for us. So I think we can learn from your mindset, your experiences, and actually just constantly asking those questions of, well, but why are you doing that? And I think the same applies for Agile as applied for Waterfall 20 years ago. I think we need to be asking those types of questions about what we consider to be normal, and challenging those thoughts, and getting people like yourself to be challenging us as well.
And I think it's concerning the people's characteristic, because you just say you like to challenge the status quo, but some people like me, we like stability. So I think it's something contrary to the mindset of Scrum, but maybe it can be changed after many experiences or project, and we can know how to adjust ourselves with Scrums.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Scrum always was that balance. It was that sort of stepping stone almost from the old to the new. It was a way of disrupting the way of working, which is inherently unsettling for people. Whenever we have to change what we're doing, whenever we have to try something that we haven't done before and go outside of our normal comfort zone, it's unsettling, it's stressful. And while Scrum was, on the one hand, saying, yes, step into this unsettling, uncomfortable world, there was also an element of comfort there, for example, by saying, well, you know, every couple of weeks or every month, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat the same process. We're going to have the same heartbeat, which provides some level of comfort and certainty, routine, rhythm, which I think gives people that balance of not panicking. They're stretching themselves, but they're not panicking.
For the panic, because just as the example of me today, I just visit my customer who is very annoying, because I think she always change her requirements, and the requirements are because the product will be a layer and they can be added like module, but her requirements change that make the module must be to depart and reconstruct. So but after reading your book and the translation, I think the mindset is that we want to know the why after behind her requirements. So I just changed my mind and changed my mindset to know why she want to do this. And after that, and after the meeting today, we have make the consensus that something might be changed, because they will make the users work more friendly. So Scrum is just not the tool, but they are the thinking that we have to build in our mind, that we can get closer to our customer. It's just the example that I have deeply considered today.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, brilliant. I often tell people that the success that I got from Scrum is as much from the mindset change as from the process change. And you know, some examples of things that I've had to tell myself many times over the years, and I still need to tell myself, to remind myself, is that no matter how annoying these customers are, no matter how dysfunctional the behavior is, no matter how frustrating these actions are that I'm seeing in people, they're not there. They're not doing that deliberately to annoy me or to frustrate me. And so to adopt a mindset of curiosity rather than judgment. So it's not good, it's not bad, it's not annoying, it's not frustrating, it's just interesting. Okay, this is interesting. What can I learn here? How can we take this forward? What can we do with this? That mindset of curiosity, I think, has been really powerful for me over the years. Sounds like you're adopting it as well.
Okay. I think we only have 4 minutes left. So before we start, do you want me or Roger to elaborate more about the schedule, or something you want to confirm?
I'm happy to just come along for the ride. This is
Okay.
your ride. I'm just here for the journey.
Okay. 那 Roger 老师，我们接下来就还要再就是等候
等候一
还是先继续聊嘛？
好，再等3分钟。
好。And I thought you are drinking cola. I have many. I received many jokes today about Coke, because the annoying customer, she accompanied with her programmer today, and the programmer liked to drink cola. And because we are about to finish this project with the customer, and the work will be switched to the programmer. They have to do the functions for her. So she said, if you want to, no, the programmer said, if you want more function, give us more cola. And the cola is just on sale today at a convenience store.
Okay.
So I think it's
there's
very
quite a
much.
big joke in a lot of the American companies that I used to work in that if you want more from your development team, you should buy them pizza and donuts. And for me, it's a bit of an interesting one with the caffeinated drinks. It was often a sign that the team were working at an unsustainable pace because they had to stay up late and they were working to long deadlines. And if you saw lots of cans of high caffeine drinks, it was usually I wonder what's going on here.
You mean they will stay up late to work until the finish line?
That's where, yeah, that's a worry. It might not be the case. It might just be that we like that. I've got a friend of mine who just drinks Diet Coke all day, every day, liters and liters of it, regardless of what work he's doing. He'll always have a bottle of Diet Coke with him.
Okay, we only have 1 minute left.
Okay.
So let us prepare for the start.
Okay. Geoff, leading will announce the interpreter. Then she will talk in Chinese. Then we will start our interview.
Okay.
It's nice to have your interview. Our glory.
I feel like I should have one of those backgrounds myself. Maybe you could send me the file.
Okay.
I could change my background.
老师，请问有那个 background？
可是没有空白的呢，没关系，要给他一下。
And Roger will find a background for you.
Okay.
But it's time. It's time to go. Let me start.
No problem.
大家晚安我是Roger 老师专业经理杂志的总编辑。那今天我们邀请到这个全世界最重量级的敏捷大神只要提到这个Scrum Mastery 那大家都会想到这本书。那其实这本书它是全世界近年代最畅销一本书那台湾这样小小的弹丸之地，居然可以邀请到这样的敏捷大神然后来到我们的专访，到底发生什么事情那其实我们在最近即将出了一本他的一个敏捷大作叫做 Scrum Mastery 那这是全世界这个极少数能够翻译成当地语言的一个大事所以我相信说很快我们繁中版的 Scrum Mastery 就要跟大家见面。好，那我们就进入今天的一个正式专访吧。丽玲。
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the interview with the world-famous Agile expert Geoff Watts, author of Scrum Mastery. It's my honor to introduce today's two interpreters, Jason and Heather from weinterpreters.com. Please remember to switch on the interpretation function of the Earth icon below for Chinese if needed. Hope you enjoy this pleasant day. 大家晚安，欢迎参与今天世界知名敏捷大师以及 Scrum Mastery 的作者 Geoff Watts 的专访。很荣幸我们今天邀请到 weinterpreters.com 的2位口译老师 Jason 席老师与 Heather 徐老师。如有需要，请开启 Zoom 下方的地球图案，有中文口译功能。那祝您享受这愉快的一天。
Hello, I'm Roger. I'm accompanied by Li Ling, who represents voluntary translators. Today, we are happy to have the worldwide leading Agile leadership coach, Mr. Geoff Watts, I will start by briefing, introducing Geoff to the panel. Geoff was one of the first certified Scrum trainer in the world in 2005, and he also holds both CST and Certified Agile Coach titles. Geoff is also known for the most experienced Scrum coaches in United Kingdom, TEDx keynote speaker, and the author of the best-selling books, including the Scrum Mastery, Product Mastery, Team Mastery, or the Coach Casebook. He co-created Organic Agility, a capability-driven leadership model that supports the growth of leadership as capability.
Okay. Geoff began his career as the certified Agile coach and Scrum trainer in British Telecom in 2001, and he has founded Inspect and Adapt Limited Company to provide certified training and coaching for organizations and teams since 2006. With extensive experience in coaching, he established the Agile Mastery Institute as president and CEO in 2022, offering a more professional Agile pathway and certification.
Geoff, thank you very much
Hi.
for taking the time to be here. As you know, we have assembled a group of passionate volunteers to translate your masterpiece in Scrum Mastery, including Scrum Masters, product owners, project managers from IT, traditional industries, technology, and R&D. We are honored to be able to interview you. Before we begin today's interview, could you say hello to prospective readers and your fans in Taiwan? Also, could you tell us a bit about yourself for those we have just learned about your work?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the work as well to translate this. It's a huge honor. Not only did I never really think I'd ever be able to write a book, but to have it translated is just beyond everything that I was hoping that I would be able to achieve. So this is an amazing day for me. I've been doing this for a long time now, even though you so kindly said that I look young. Believe me, I'm not. I certainly don't feel it. But what does keep me young is the work that I do, really. I'm constantly going from team to team, from company to company, even in a virtual world, from country to country. And my focus is always on the people, not the process or the product necessarily, because ultimately it's people that do this work. Until such day as the robots take over, we're still doing the work as people, with people, for people. And when I started this was very much a humanization of work for me. It was bringing the human side into the workforce, taking account of our creativity, our ability and willingness and desire to collaborate, and give people the tools and the mindset to be able to cope with the difficult circumstances that many organizations face themselves in these days, with complexity and speed of change and uncertainty, all things that really can unsettle us as human beings. So if I've helped some people in some small way deal with those anxieties and those insecurities, while also becoming a little bit more successful, then I'm happy with what I've done.
Actually, I had many surprises when translating your book in traditional Chinese version, because I can count how many conditions from the stories in your book, just like I face in my job. And we have prepared some questions in today's interview, if you are ready at this point.
Sure, let's go.
Great. Since you have years of experiences in Agile, what motivated you to write this book and the impact you want to achieve in 2013? Besides, why did you decide to write the second version in 2021? What updates?
So what motivated me to, well, there was quite a bit of procrastination, actually. Many people were asking me to write this book years before I did. And partly I just didn't think that I was capable of doing so. So I put it off. Really, it was, for those of you that have read it, you'll notice that it's stories, and those are my experiences of working with teams, some of them from a long time ago now, but they're real experiences. And so my style of teaching people was largely built around my experiences, the successes and the failures, the frustrations, the embarrassments, and the happy accidents. And so what I found was, when I told those stories, many people related to them. They resonated. Either they could easily see that happening in their organizations, or they had already seen it. Excuse me. So what I found was, actually, the stories that I had were a pretty good, almost capturing of what people can expect when going through this process. And I think stories are a nice, comforting way of learning. If you can learn from other people's mistakes and other people's successes, then I think that's a nice way to learn. It's a safer way to learn. So the motivation was partly pressure, really. People said, Geoff, you should do this. We want you to do this. There needs to be something like this. And then it became can I prove myself wrong? So I had this limiting belief that I couldn't write a book. This was the message that I was telling myself, that you can't write a book. You're not an author. You're just a Scrum Master. And throughout my life, if there's been one theme, it's been to try and conquer the limiting beliefs that I have, from public speaking to writing a book, to drawing, to learning to play the piano, whatever it may be. If there's something that I'm telling myself I can't do, then at some point I will challenge myself to try and beat that. So that's where that came from. And it got good response. People were regularly sending me messages, nice messages, thanking me for writing it, telling me how it actually helped them, which gives you a lot of motivation to keep going. And obviously 2013, if you imagine, some of those stories were from 2006, 2007. They were old stories, so still relevant, still true, but a lot had happened since 2013. So this included stories on remote working from the pandemic, the second edition. It included a lot more around the coaching side of things, the coaching professionalization of the Scrum Master role and the Agile world. So it was an update more along the extra skills or nuances or dimensions of the Scrum Master role that had evolved since the first edition, rather than, for example, the changes to the official terminology or Scrum Guide or things like that. That's where the second edition came from.
Got it. Geoff, both of us are coaches. I'm ACC, which with 350. I think I can approach my PCC this year. And I will ask you coach questions. This is your Scrum Mastery is a must for every Agile coach. And what does this book represent to you?
I suppose the first word that comes to mind is pride. And I know pride is not necessarily always considered to be a positive thing, but I think we should take pride in our achievements. I think we should take pride in the impact that we can have and the positive impact that we can have. So I am proud that I did this. I am proud that it helped people and it continues to help people. I think it's when you look back on your career and you think, what have I done? What have I achieved? I think it's a notable thing and a worthy thing to look back on. I think one thing that I see both sides to this. So it's incredibly flattering that people consider this to be a staple and a must read for Scrum Masters and so on. But I think there's also a downside to that, in that people need to find their own way. And one thing that I didn't want is for people to think that this is the way, that this is how you should do things. different teams, different people, different companies, different cultures, different times, different domains, I think will require different tactics. And so I hope that it's not too constraining for people, either now or in the future. So there's always an apprehension about what you put out there. Is it going to be taken the way that you intend it to be taken? I suppose so there's a nervousness as well as a pride.
Wow, I think this is the most greatest book around the world, which is second to the Scrum Guide.
Well, when comparing it to the Scrum Guide, I think it is a good comparison because they are very different books. My intention really was to make this more real life, more relatable, more applicable than the Scrum Guide. It doesn't really focus too much on rules or roles or responsibilities or anything like that. It's my view of the real life application of Scrum, the good, the bad, the ugly, the frustrating, from as many different experiences and perspectives as I could come across, in the full knowledge that I'm never going to be able to see every environment, every culture, every team.
Yes, this is a very good book to read. Our volunteers say this book is very delicious because it is easy to understand and just like a story. So we can read it with our passion and our feeling. It's a very good book.
Thank you.
And now we are 274 people online. They just want to see you in the online. And now the Scrum Mastery, you discuss the journey of growing from a good Scrum Master to an excellent one, ultimately achieving mastery. Could you elaborate on the main changes that are happening in the process?
It's a good question. It is quite transformative as a role, and Scrum itself is quite transformative, although in an evolutionary kind of way rather than a revolutionary kind of way. So I suppose there's two angles to this for me. One is, as a Scrum Master, I'm trying to help the team and the organization transform, but also there's almost always an element of personal transformation for the Scrum Master themselves. So that it usually starts off with a fair amount of doing Scrum, so helping people do Scrum. So putting in place new ways of working, new processes, new structures, new artifacts, new ceremonies, maybe new roles. And that's hard because it's not just a case of coming along and saying, you must do this. People need to understand why. They need to come along on the journey. They need to meet their pain points and make their work better for them. Otherwise, they'll just resist. So there's an element of, well, can I establish a new normal with this group without necessarily having any authority? And then there's an element of, well, can I help them understand what this means for them? And can I help them shape this for their own ownership? Because doing something because a book tells them to might be comforting to a degree, but it's not fulfilling. Doing something because we know it's the right thing to do, and actually we've been part of creating it, is a lot more fulfilling. The challenge for the Scrum Master when helping guide a team or an organization through this process is that until we've established new muscle memory, until we've established new habits, we're naturally drawn back to what we've been used to in the past. So if we give too much autonomy too quickly to shape the process, then actually it would be perfectly normal to go back to what was there before. We need to be held in that state of discomfort long enough to establishing comfort with that discomfort. And then we can start to shape this new discomfort, if that makes sense. And I was saying earlier on, there's an element of predictability, routine, rhythm that we can leverage to help make that process slightly easier. which is that, yeah, and every 2 weeks we have to have a retrospective. Really, this week, Geoff, do we have to? Yeah, yes, you do. Sorry. And I have to risk being a little bit unpopular and a little bit process dogmatic to get those new habits in place. So I'm not necessarily going into this role because I want to make friends. And same for product owners and so on. But that routine, that rhythm will help. And then eventually the team will see, and the organization will see, well, there's probably better ways of doing this. So the aim is to constantly inspect and adapt, to reflect and learn on things. Well, maybe we could do this without a retrospective. Maybe we could do this even better than a retrospective. And that's the point where the Scrum Master sees the team transforming into really owning the process. And some people will say that's when they're being agile or they're being Scrum. And that's a brilliant place. So it's a scary place for a Scrum Master, but it's a brilliant place. Now it's scary because it now questions, so am I still useful to this team? Do they still need me? Now I would argue, and I do argue, that the best Scrum Masters will do themselves out of a job. They will make themselves unnecessary. They will give the team the conditions, create the conditions for the team to be able to self-manage. Now, when they reach that point, the team will actually want them, but they won't need them. And that's an interesting recontracting point for those relationships, that dynamic. And that brings me on to the sort of personal transformation side of things, because as Scrum Masters, we have to become more comfortable with our own sense of self-assuredness and how we add value, because we don't add value by doing as much as perhaps we might have done in the past. We add value by helping others be able to do. We add value by others being able to take the credit. And that requires a lot of self-confidence and humility, and trust in the process, trust in those around us, trust that other people will see the value that we're adding. We don't have to be the hero. We don't have to be leading from the front. And to begin with, that probably won't be there for a lot of people. Culturally, personally, we have that need for recognition, that need for personal achievement, and it will drive us towards the front. But as we become more comfortable and more trusting of the process and trusting of the team, we can take a little bit more of a step back and see our role as nurturing growers of autonomous teams. And that's quite an interesting, powerful personal journey for a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years as well.
Wow, you are so humble. I think you are 100% Scrum Master.
Yeah, I like the word you use, transformation, because I agree that becoming an excellent Scrum Master from a good one needs effort, especially the self-power. As people know, all beginnings are difficult. What challenges might one face when applying servant leadership, as you discussed many times in your book? Can you give us some tips for overcoming these challenges?
Well, why is it the first challenge? I think it's at the front of my mind at the moment, because a lot of people have been talking about words, and I'm aware that a lot of the Scrum language and terminology has evolved from the English-speaking world, which has its advantages and very strong disadvantages as well. So English is a horrendous language when it comes to different meanings for the same word. And so we've had a lot of discussions recently about the word master, for example, and its connotations with status and slavery, and equally servant as a form of servant leadership and the implications that the word servant has. And I remember one of the first places that I worked after I left British Telecom, and I'll try and choose my words carefully. And I turned up for the first day, and they said to me, "I'm going to introduce you to our what word can I use that's better? Scrum secretary." So they weren't using the word Scrum secretary; they were using something worse. And I said, do you mean Scrum Master? And they said, no, we don't have Scrum Masters here. We have Scrum Secretaries, because they order the stationery, they order the cakes, they book the meeting rooms, they update the Jira tickets. They're the dog's body of the team. And that impression of servant leadership, that they are there literally to serve the team, whatever they ask for. Yes, my lord. That misinterpretation of the word can be perhaps the first hurdle. It usually isn't the first hurdle, but it could be. So really understanding what we mean by servant leadership, the idea being that I'm here to help create more leaders, not more followers. I'm here not for personal glory, but to help other people be successful. That sense of servant leadership, I think, is some of the big challenges that we have. And in a lot of our organizations, that's not what's being rewarded. Even now, it's still not what, when it comes down to it, it's often what is not rewarded within our organizations. And I have I was introduced to this phrase, I can't remember who introduced me to it, but if you reward firefighters, then you breed arsonists. And a lot of our organizations reward firefighters, the people who, when things get wrong, can go out and put out the fire. And that just encourages people to create more fires, because that's what gets rewarded. Now, as an organization, do we actually value, do we explicitly recognize and appreciate the people who don't go around putting out fires, but actually make sure those fires never happen in the first place? And I think that's where servant leadership is difficult, because it's not an attractive role. It's not something that screams out to people. You will get recognized. You will be appreciated for doing this role.
Actually, you mentioned the firefighter. It's just like what my job in my company, because everyone has troubles when doing a project for the customers. They come to our department and say, help me, I want blah, 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 like this. So,
yeah,
I believe one of the challenges might be how to become a servant, not secretary. For myself, I want to know how to not become a firefighter for other people in my company. For example, I have to say something about our rules of the department or some suggestions.
Yeah. I mean, the first piece of advice that I can remember being given about being a Scrum Master was to learn to count to 10. Essentially, it was just to slow down. So in a lot of our organizations, we're under so much pressure to do things quicker. We can't wait. We need something now. We need it fixed now. And it's very easy to get dragged into that pace. And somebody's really stressed, really need an answer, really need a problem solved. And it's very easy to be dragged into that. Okay, well, I'll help because I want to help. And I think that's what people want of me. But if I can just buy myself some time and just think, what's the short-term impact that I want to have? And what's the long-term impact that I want to have here? And given all the options that are available to me, what do I consciously want to decide to do, rather than just work off autopilot or to be railroaded into a particular way of acting that is just the standard? And it's always, I see Scrum Masters as almost the masters of balance, because everything is a balance for the Scrum Master. If I do this, this is going to be quick. But if I do this, then actually is a long-term gain. If I do this, then our product stakeholders might be happy. But if I do this, then, and working out that appropriate balance is difficult, because there's never a right answer. Even in retrospect, even when you're looking back on what you've done, it's impossible to say, I did the right thing there. And for a lot of people, that's quite unsettling. So I think being able to buy yourself some time and count and think through, be conscious and mindful about how you want to act. And then when you are retrospecting, not looking for the right answer, not scoring yourself in perfection, but scoring yourself in terms of, well, was my thought process a good one there? Would I do something better next time? Am I happy with how I acted? And most of the work I do, or most of the time when I talk about this topic, it's usually to do with product managers, product owners. But I think the same is very appropriate for Scrum Masters as well, which is that a bad outcome is not necessarily the result of a bad decision. So I can have a bad outcome, but actually it was a good decision that led to that. Or I could make a bad decision and it could lead to a good outcome. It's not directly correlated. To encourage product owners and Scrum Masters to look back at the outcomes and just think, well, if I forget that actually my decision isn't, or if I assume that my decision isn't directly related to the outcome, am I happy with the decision-making process that I adopted? There's an element of luck and there will be elements of factors outside of our control, but for what I was in control of, am I happy with the process? And that's quite, it might sound really easy when I'm sitting here and saying this, but under pressure in our organizations, it can be quite hard to do.
And you just say the product owner or the Scrum Master need to balance. But I think the balance, it might be much challenging when in the remoting work. I believe one of the challenges of the communication might be remoting work as well after the epidemic. Actually, the Chinese version Scrum Mastery was done virtually, and we want to get your thought on that. In an increasingly remote work environment, what adjustment might a Scrum Master need to make in the role and the work method like communication?
Yeah, I think, and I have to admit, I'm not an expert at this. I'm very privileged. I'm very lucky. I can still do a lot of my work in person, and I choose to. I've come to value the in-person part of my job a lot more than I did pre-pandemic. So I still do a lot of my work that way, and I really do feel sympathy for Scrum Masters in a remote world, and the reason for that is because, and forgive me for the pop reference, but I often refer to a Scrum Master having spidey sense. That sort of tingle when they know something's not quite right, but they don't know what. And I encourage Scrum Masters to be on the lookout for their spidey sense tingling. And not necessarily to diagnose, but just to be, okay, something interesting's going on here. I wonder what. Now, in a remote world, that's much harder because you're just not coming across people as much, and you're not coming across dynamics as much, so interactions between people. And one of the key aspects of an agile approach is individuals and interactions. So it's a lot harder to make use of their spidey sense. It's a lot harder to create and then grow and protect psychological safety in a remote environment. It's a lot harder to create transparency in a remote environment. So a lot of the changes that I and a lot of other Scrum Masters have made have been in some part due to making it invisible, whether that be the dynamics between team members. If I can make things visible, we can do something about them. But the more remote we are, the harder it is to make those things more visible. So I feel a lot of sympathy for Scrum Masters who are working in remote teams. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's not going to be successful, because when I wrote Scrum Mastery, it was a completely remote team. The people involved never met each other. My designer, I still to this day haven't met my designer. I still haven't met my editor. I still haven't met the reviewers. None of them met each other, and yet it was a successful product development effort. So it absolutely can happen, but it does make it a lot harder. And during the pandemic, I was just curious about how this was impacting teams. And I saw a lot of situations where actually trust reduced, where the less we see each other and the less rich the communication when we do see each other, the more suspicious and the less trusting we are of people. And trust is important in a self-managing team. So I think, yes, it's more difficult, but it's also more important to work out how to be an effective Scrum Master in those situations, whether it's going out of our way to have more conversations, whether it's going out of our way to use different tools to enable more higher bandwidth of communication, that we can see more, that we can interact more, whatever it may be. And I used to joke that it won't be long before we're having our meetings with our headsets on and it feels like we're in the same place, but we're not. And I think almost the sooner that we can get to that place, where we are right now is not as good as it was and not as good as it will be. And we're in this funny phase of, well, how do we cope with that? And some teams have coped with it much better than others. Some have said effectively, well, we can't do this now, so we're going to go back to telling people what to do. And it's an excuse to avoid self-management and servant leadership, which I can kind of understand. So you are probably a lot more advanced than I am in this space. So you use this remote team to do the translation, and you used a Scrum approach for that. People are often asking me about AI, artificial intelligence and things like that. I'm not an expert in that either. Did you use any artificial intelligence or any technology there?
Actually, we used ChatGPT in our program, and it's very working. And I think Roger can share our project with you if you are curious.
Always curious.
Sorry. Congratulations that our translated book will be published at the midterm of the July. And let me introduce about our collaboration. Can you see my screenshot?
I can.
Okay. When there is a way, when there is a will and there is a way, that is my best way of doing this translated book. So I have a great vision to let the Scrum Mastery Chinese version, which is the world first Chinese Scrum Mastery. We're setting the first non-IT large-scale Scrum, which use Nexus product development. And we use the Scrum theory, which is the empiricism. And I observed that your company is inspect and adopt. I think it is come from empiricism. But in our translation team, we serve this as a real guide in translating. We always follow the Scrum 5 values and the Scrum 5 events. And we have a daily Scrum every day, even though we are virtual team. And the most special way to work is we use the Nexus. The Nexus is one of the, it's come from Scrum org, because we don't have a large scale Scrum. So we use the Nexus. And we expand to Nexus Scrum framework, adding the NIT team, which is the Nexus integration team, to our structure. This team is led by Scrum Masters, tackles cross-team integration issue daily, and greatly improving our problem-solving capacity. Our organization features independent cross-functional teams, just like this. We have 70 persons, and their unique contribution significantly enhance our overall output. And you may know these volunteers, some are project managers, some are product managers, and product owner, even the Scrum Master. But many of them are PhD, such as the professor of the university. And our operational success can be attributed to our compelling vision. Scrum fundamental principles, and Nexus innovative approach. These elements have enabled us to enhance productivity and effectively manage our large-scale operation. And here is the operation of our translation process of the Nexus. First, the team members finish the proofread translating, perform the quality assurance with each other. Then the final QA, such as Li Ling, will check the translated chapters on behalf of the product owner before the demonstration. And I'm the product owner. And then during the demonstration, the sprint review, the product owner invites the stakeholder to provide feedbacks. And integration, the team finalized to copy edit the draft to make it consistent in terms and style. And PO finalized the draft. And here are our Scrum teams. You can see we have our background, and this is your book design. And our cross-functional team is working with the ChatGPT on translation. Someone may be curious, we can translate it by ChatGPT. Why will we call a lot of volunteers? Because we are doing the cross-functional team with the ChatGPT on translation. Our team has been harnessing the exceptional translation capabilities of ChatGPT to produce translated documentations. While the AI translation proficiency is commendable, it often faces challenge in maintaining contextual consistency throughout the text. So we need a lot of volunteers. Initially, our dedicated volunteer did not rely on GPT for translation. But as we progress, we pivot to use GPT, which produces 3 translation versions. Our volunteer then select the most fitting version, refine it for precision and consistency. Our collaborative structure comprises the cross-functional teams with ChatGPT serving as the translator and our volunteers acting as editors. This blend ensures the final document reads as through translated by a single person, just like only one person, achieving the most difficult feat in translation. In today's era of burgeoning AI technology, it's crucial for our agile operation to learn to collaborate effectively with AI. By doing so, we are able to deliver end-to-end results and provide maximum value to our clients. And here, I think your picture is more, your picture is more, you're more younger than your picture. And this is the Chinese version. And this is our masterpiece. And it will be published at the midterm of the July. And as a Scrum trainer, to promote Scrum is my destiny and duty. So with great power comes the great responsibility. That's my point.
So great. So we've used the translation to educate and improve ChatGPT. That's good. And we've made another Spider-Man reference. And we've upgraded all of our volunteers from translators to editors now. So they're using ChatGPT to upskill themselves to this is great.
Yes, that's one of the capability now we are doing, because it is the trend of the world. So we always need to do the cross-functional team with the ChatGPT.
I think that's probably going to be something that we see a lot more of in the future. I know a lot of product leaders are making use of ChatGPT for user story writing, theming, features, prioritization, forecasting, and things like that. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more use of that as a support tool for teams and agile teams going forward.
Yes. And then let me go to the next question. And if readers had only 1 hour to read your book, what section would you recommend they focus on? Why?
Well, I'm tempted to be really cheeky and say, well, read quickly and you'll get it all in an hour. But I think that's quite hard. So whenever people ask me where to start, I try and meet people where they are. So that's my coaching stance coming through. So I'd ask them to look through the list of attributes and think, well, which area would you like to develop? Most people in general, I suppose, would pick a couple. One is around the empathic listening. I think you can pick up a lot and become a much more effective Scrum Master a lot quicker by developing your listening ability, not just for what's being said, but also what's not being said and how it's being said. And then usually the other areas that most people pick are around their self-limiting beliefs. And those self-limiting beliefs are usually around their creativity. So they might tell themselves, I'm not very creative, or I'm worried about trying something new, or influencing, so tactful disruption. So how do I make things change? How do I influence people? And how can I show up as more as of an influential change agent? So usually around the empathic listening, the tactful disruption, or the resourcefulness would be where I would point people towards.
Got it. And we have made your black background on the Zoom chat. Please download. So you can change the background. Same with us, because this is done by our volunteer a while ago. Yeah, you can try to change it.
So I've got one which is great.
I put it at the Zoom chat.
Yes,
I
can see it.
Sorry. I reload again.
So I believe my background is now like the translators, which is great.
Okay, now it's at the Zoom chat. You can download.
Okay.
And we wait for you. Wow.
There you go.
Let's have a group picture again. Okay. 施志来.
Okay. Let's take picture. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Very good.
丽玲给你问
Okay. And so far we have learned some of your ideas of your book, the Scrum Mastery, like the creativity, or someone need to learn new things. And any additional comments or insight you would like to share with us? For example, if you have some suggestions for the Taiwanese company, how to use Scrum, and any ideas?
Wow. So the first part is a little bit easier than the second. I don't think I'm qualified to advise a Taiwanese company, because I don't know enough about the culture. My advice would be to try and meet people where they are, to try and reduce any kind of motivational debt, and create a safe space for people to grow into this space and not expect things to happen overnight. I mean, and that would be the same regardless of where I went, even in another part of the UK. I don't know enough about anything to be able to advise how to do things, but I've got tools that you can use if you think you've got something you would like to do. In terms of other insights, I think we're at an interesting place with regards to a place in time, that is. I think we're at an interesting place in time with regards to Scrum Masters. And again, this might be a geographical thing. I think there's a trend that started certainly in the United States, of Scrum Masters not being given the career credit and incentives that they're due. And the reason I say that is I see a lot of Scrum Masters who worry that actually they're unable to have a career progression path in this role. And so they're incentivized to progress, in their words, not mine, into an agile coach role. And I think the teams are worse off as a result of that. I think the organizations are worse off as a result of that. And I think a lot of the individuals are worse off as a result of that. I think we need to really challenge ourselves to give the role of Scrum Master the credit that it's due and not expect people to have to grow out of it. I think there's a lot to be said for becoming great at that role and great at that and the characteristics behind that role. And when I think, so there was a horrible analogy years and years ago when Scrum first came out between chickens and pigs, and saying there are three roles in a Scrum team that are committed, that are really involved, heavily invested in this. The American phrase of they've got skin in the game. You've got the product owner, you've got the development team, and then you've got the Scrum Master. And anybody else is interested in what's going on, but they're not committed to making it a success. And I think the Agile coach is someone who's interested, but they're not committed. And I think that's a big loss. If we're taking a Scrum Master out, as some organizations are starting to do, and instead hoping an Agile coach will play that role, we've lost a lot. And it pleases me that communities like yours see the value in this role and are recognizing that for others, because people who choose this profession are adding a huge amount of value, and we need them.
And in your experience, because there might be difference of cultural or organization context, but as the audience today, we are not everyone's Scrum Master. What do you think the characteristics or skills that can elevate the Scrum Master from good to excellent? And do you think this trait or skills can be practiced?
So I think almost anything can be practiced. And I think almost anything has the potential to be a strength and a weakness. And I think there are different degrees of strengths as well. So I don't necessarily think there are any characteristics that great Scrum Masters have that good Scrum Masters don't. I just think they consciously practice those skills, characteristics, and mindsets more, and they self-reflect more. So taking any of those aspects, whether it's around creativity, whether it's around tactful disruption, whether it's around listening, I think the great Scrum Masters take all of those skills and really dive into them. They don't just go at the surface level and do good enough, although good enough is still good. But they're also, those great Scrum Masters also know when those strengths run the risk of becoming a weakness. So I told you about me being a disruptive person. I quite like disrupting the status quo, but there comes a point when actually being disruptive is going to get me fired, or actually give Scrum a bad name, or set the whole agile organizational transformation back. So I need to be constantly on the lookout of, am I going too far here? But equally not just settling for good. Does that make sense?
I'm not a professional, but so I can figure out if it makes sense or not. But I think you are right, because everything can be practiced, and this just like a Scrum Master need to know these things through the experience or many practices.
Yeah, I'll give you an example, and maybe you can tell me whether this is similar in Taiwan or not. But there's quite a common view that in the UK, and I think the same in the US. Either you're a creative person or you're not, or you're born creative or you're not, you're born artistic or you're not. And I don't believe that. I think, yes, some people will have some more natural talents, but I think anything can be developed with enough practice and enough effort and enough resilience. And that sense of, well, this is important, this is valuable, and it might take a bit of time for me to get there, but it's worth it, and I'm going to stick with that. And I was in Vienna a few weeks ago for a workshop, and I went along to one of the museums there, and I saw some Picasso artwork, and there was a quote from Picasso which said, every child is born an artist, the challenge is to remain one as we grow up. And I think a lot of Scrum Masters are, a lot of the great Scrum Masters actually role model what might be considered to be childish behavior almost, but that sense of, I've got a 4-year-old as well as a 20-year-old, and to my 4-year-old, anything is possible. As far as they're concerned, they can grow up to be Spider-Man, right? And whereas my 16-year-old, he wants to fly a plane, my 4-year-old just wants to fly, all right? And I think keeping hold of that beginner's mindset, that sense of possibility, and not giving in to our limiting beliefs, our limiting assumptions, or our learned helplessness of there's no point. I think that's a big, big part of what makes a great Scrum Master great, not just for themselves, but for the role model that they're setting for other people as well.
Yeah, I agree. From your example, I think Taiwan is same as the UK. Some traits are born with, but some are learned after some social experiences. And so I totally agree with you. And thank you for sharing precious insight with us. And I think most of the audience have many questions to ask you. If you are okay for an open session. Okay,
Cool.
So now we have an open session for 3 online audiences to raise issues. If anyone has a question, please press the raise hand button below to let us know. 那现在我们有开放3位现场观众提问，那如果有任何问题想要询问 Geoff， 可以点击下方的举手功能让我们知道。那要发问的时候，我们的同仁会帮您开启麦克风，那记得也要开启视讯功能。Okay, we have Fisher.
I just want to know how you could create a psychological safe environment.
That's a really good question. And I think it's an important part of being a Scrum Master. I think it's an important part of being a leader these days, regardless of whether it's a Scrum Master. And for me, the first thing that I usually encourage people to think about is to think of psychological safety not as a binary state, but rather we can become more psychologically safe every day, every interaction, and we can become less psychologically safe as well. So looking at it as a scale almost, and thinking, well, how many times can I provide some evidence and create the opportunity for evidence that we are in a psychologically safe environment and feel psychologically safer today than we did yesterday, knowing that it doesn't take a huge amount for people to lose that sense of safety as well, but we can also learn and grow from negative experiences. So if something happens in the team that makes one member of the team feel unsafe, now that on the face of it is a bad thing, but equally it could be a really positive thing because we could work through it. And if we can come out the other side and think this was a potentially negative interaction and a reduction of our safety with one another, but we argued our way through it, we resolved the situation, we came out of it as a stronger team, then that could be a net positive. So it's a little bit of a long-winded answer, Fisher, but I think it's something that is a constant work in progress. And as a Scrum Master, constantly assessing that and highlighting the positives that often will go unnoticed. I think it's a big job to say, there is a good example of something. Let's highlight that. Let's bank that. Let's recognize it and appreciate it. I had one team recently who I asked them, what would it take for them to feel more psychologically safe than they currently are right now? What's one thing that they could do? And there was a lot of suggestions, but the one thing that just made me, I suppose it didn't quite make me laugh, but it certainly made me smile, was that one person said, well, I'm not going to feel psychologically safe in this team unless all of our devices are left outside the room, because I know they're all listening to me. And what if someone's recording this? How do I know that I can say something and not have it not held against me later on? And the point there is not that that's what you should be doing with your teams, but asking the team what would make them feel psychologically safe might be quite surprising. Thank you for the question.
Okay. And the next questioner is Eddie.
Oh, hi, Geoff. This is Eddie, and
Hi, Eddie.
I think I believe we've met, previously, connected via LinkedIn, and sorry, I actually just had a surgery this morning, and I'm actually hospitalized. But I'm super excited to join this interview. And
Well, thank you so much for joining, and I hope your recovery goes very well.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for patiently feedbacking all my questions on LinkedIn. So and I'm also one of the the many volunteers who've translated your masterpiece, Scrum Mastery. So my question is, can you share with the audience and the fellow volunteers what are the 3 key habits that the Scrum Master must keep reminding oneself every day to go from good to great Scrum Master before influencing others and people around you? So,
wow, that's a big question. I love it. I'm going to try and answer it twice.
All right.
So the first answer that I want to give is that I think every Scrum Master will have 3 habits to remind themselves that are different to each other. And what's important for me to remember as a Scrum Master now isn't necessarily what was important for me to remind myself 6 months ago. But I think getting into a habit of actually reminding yourself a few things on a regular basis and then reflecting on them is something that all great Scrum Masters could benefit from. Now, whether you call that journaling or you call it something else, the questions that I ask myself at the end of the day and the affirmations that I give myself at the start of the day will change over time. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you use the same ones that I do, but having that same practice, I think, is very valuable. So that's the first answer I'll give you, is adopt the practice, but not necessarily the answer that I'm going to give you now. So, but if you, to try and not be a bit of a cheat and actually to answer your question explicitly, if I can.
Okay. Thank you for your, being frank and honest.
I would probably say, so the first one, which as one of the volunteers you won't be surprised by, I don't think, is ask the team.
Okay.
That's the first thing I think I would encourage Scrum Masters to consider.
Yeah.
What do the team think? Because it's probably different to what I think and probably more powerful. Okay. The second is something that it might just be coming to me now because it's something that came up with Lillian's question earlier on, which is, what short-term and long-term impact do I want here? So thinking short-term and long-term. And then the third, I would probably encourage you to say something, be kind to yourself. Because as a Scrum Master, it's a tough job and you don't necessarily get other people coming along and telling you you're doing a good job. So you need to remind yourself that you're doing a good job now and again.
Right. Psychologically, you need to inspire yourself, because being a program manager myself, I give inspire word to my team members, teammates, but I seldom receive inspire from my team members. So and I think it's important just to keep reminding yourself either psychologically or physically that you are doing great, and then reward yourself. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for the great advice to me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoff.
Okay, thank you again, Geoff. We wish you and your family all the best in their health and safety. I want to invite Geoff to take a group picture with all of us. Is this all right?
It's fine by me.
Okay. Okay, I will cancel the focus. Then everyone, please open your webcam, and we can take a big shot with Geoff Watts. Right. Please raise your hand with this is a sign of Vulcan salute, which means the Scrum 3355. 好，四字，
哎，有，
好，来，
好，大家
你要喊1、2、3啊，来，
好
That work?
，1, 2, 3. Okay. Next.
We have 267 people online, and the peak is 300.
Fantastic. Thank you for organizing. Thank you for all of your hard work, to you and all of the volunteers. I really appreciate it.
Geoff, not yet finished, because there are many shots. We need to take 6 pages, each page with
Okay. So again,
you just smile. 四字你连续要快一点啊。
好，好。Screen.
好，来第2章大家看镜头1、2、3，好，第3章，好，1、2、3，好，把它放社群，然后第4章 number 4 1 2 3， and number 5 1 2 3， and the last one 1 2 3。OK， 好，丽玲。
Okay, Geoff, unlike the participants or fans of your book that are so happy to meet you today and receive many takeaways. And before we say goodbye, could you join us for a picture with the volunteer interpreters in the breakout room?
of course.
Okay. So we'll go to breakout room.
好，请所有的字。
好，各位志工，大家好。
嗨，世志 ，Hello。
Hello，你要不要先 LDS 一下？
LD，OK 啊。
对对对对。
Hello. Because the previous room we invite Roger invites all the like public and also the volunteers into the chatting room, but now this room is only for the volunteers, real volunteers, and you only. So that's why we have this breakout room. So don't be feel awkward or something.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I'm also. My name is Yu Chen, and I'm also one of the translator of your book. But actually, I didn't know anything about the Scrum before. Actually,
Okay.
to be honest, but it's like the book brings me like the thoughts, like it's more feels like how to to coach a team, how to really feel the people around the team. It's
Yeah.
it's something like you spoke in the very beginning of the talk today. You said every works like programming or something, every works is done by people. So everything we should start from the people, and then they will do the things they should do.
Mhm.
So like the Scrum Master is like the role like this, but it's like you say, it's very difficult one because every team member came from different family, different background, different experience all the time. So it's like like a infinite game to coach the team. So that's my takeaway today. Thank you for your sharing. Yes, it's
Well,
wonderful.
thank you. And thank you for all your efforts as well. And I'm privileged that my book was your introduction into the agile world.
Thanks.
Okay, Geoff, because your book is not yet published yet, so we have a trick on your book. Please see my my cover. You can see this. This is your, but this is only a paper.
Okay.
Then we cut it. So we have a virtual book that can with you. Okay. Let's take a group picture with Geoff. Bring your book. Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 来
Two more. Okay.
2。
4字再多拍几张。
好。OK。
I think there are about half of the volunteers are here today. We have 42 volunteers.
Brilliant.
So do anyone like to talk to Geoff? It is precious time.
They probably had enough of me, Roger.
Hi, hi Geoff. This is Eddie again.
Hey, Eddie.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for your question. And I guess my takeaway is you have a 20-year-old who's in college or uni, and another 4-year-old. And the first impression is you're really brave, because I have a 4-year-old son and a 7-month daughter. So, and
congratulations.
I find it really hard, to having 2 kids when I'm in the early 40s. So yeah, it's a lot of work. So yeah.
Yeah,
so,
they're hard work, but they also keep you young. So he loves his the little one loves his Mario Kart. So that gives me an excuse to play Mario Kart again.
Wow. Okay. So that's your secret of keeping young and finding youth.
I think so.
Okay. So how did you apply Scrum or Agile when teaching or I wouldn't say managing your kid, because 4-year-old it's sometimes it's uncontrollable. So can you
I think
share
it's quite-
some, you know,
it's quite natural for
techniques?
them. I think
Mhm.
I think it is quite natural for him. It was a little bit harder with the older two
Mhm.
with regards to school, but they found it a lot more valuable in terms of revising and working through their work and things like that for exams. I think they found that really that useful. But I think the self-management, the self-awareness, the reflection, almost having your personal retrospectives and how to listen and how to build relationships at school and with your friends and things. I think that's just as valuable as being able to be really efficient in your work.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we teach regular reflection and listening to one another
Mhm.
and finding some common goals and how can we build up our strengths and contribute to the team. You know, we've all got our own strengths and interest areas, but we're all part of one team.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's really good advice, which I, you know, could apply on my son. No. And I think I've had another question which I asked you before regarding if you have like is it possible to like vote someone out who's not you know, part of the team and, you know, being always late and, you know, to a meeting and basically everyone's, you know, the team hates him, but, you know, the one speaking out and should the scrum master or the program manager be you know, be the bad guy and kick him and, you know, kick him out, or should you be you know, be liberal and you know, have the team, you know, voting someone out. Because in the team environments, especially in my company, I'm managing a team who has, you know, of different functions, but each function has their own manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's I could say yes to all of those things and I could say no to all of those things.
Mhm.
And for me, it's very easy for me to sit here now and say this, but the dysfunctional behavior that you're describing there is almost always, in my experience, a symptom of an unmet need. So that person is under pressure. They're not getting something from their work or their personal life that they need.
Right.
And so the negative behavior is coming out for that reason.
Mhm.
So if we can find out what it is that person needs, if we can, it might just be a sense of purpose. It might be a sense of compassion. It might be a sense of connection, safety.
Mhm.
It might be a sense of letting that person fail. You know, as a scrum master, there's a fine line between enabling a team and rescuing a team, and creating a codependent relationship. So all of those options are possible. They all have consequences.
Mhm.
And sometimes the really difficult decision isn't having that conversation to let them go. Sometimes the difficult decision is to actually get to know them and understand where their challenges are, and see if we can help. And sometimes it's the other way around. And which is why being a scrum master is such a tough job, because there isn't a case of, well, in this case, you should do that. And you can look back and think, yeah, I'll pass the test, because you never know. You never know if you'd have handled it differently, would it have gone better? You just won't.
Okay.
And that's really difficult for a lot of people to come to terms with.
Okay. I mean, I tried to save him, but, you know, but I think in the end, I didn't get my hands dirty, and instead he was laid off by the company. So, you know, and, you know, the company does the justice in the end. Okay. Thank you, Geoff. I'll hand over to other volunteers. I've taken up, you know, too much of your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Geoff, can I give the volunteers a chance? Everyone give you one sentence. They want to talk to you. Can they?
If we've got time.
Okay. Okay. 好，来，
and
大
if
家
they want to.
OK， 大家开放，每人讲一句话对 Geoff from me, Geoff, you are very handsome.
Thank you.
Becky.
Hi, Geoff. This is Peggy speaking. Thank you for using the simple story to tell the reader about the underlying spirit of the Scrum Master and how to become a a good Scrum Master, or even like do the more like to upgrade yourself and then from good to great Scrum Master? And but I have a like quick question for you, lad, because Scrum Master is also like human being, right? And but sometimes when the things doesn't go as expected, like for example, like the team's progress is like behind expected, and then you probably and all the stuff will drive the Scrum Master crazy. And then how can you give the advice to Scrum Master, except for that is the example, say count from 1 to 10, and what's other like simple tips for the others for all of us? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the 20 to 10 is obviously my place to start, but working out, this is a little bit deeper, but working out what it is that's triggering me or triggering that reaction in me. What it is about that behavior that affects me, or is it that situation where that behavior is affecting me? So if I can better understand myself, then I can better manage myself. And if I can better manage myself, then I'm in a more resilient and mindful state to be able to manage the situation better. But if I'm acting emotionally and responding mindlessly, in the sense of the opposite of mindfully, if I'm operating on autopilot, emotional autopilot, then I'm not going to be giving my best. So getting into the habit of just being more aware of what's going on for me, not in a judgmental way, not in a self-critical way, just in a, this is interesting. And then practicing a little bit of kindness when reflecting on how I act.
I see. Thank you for the advice.
Thank you for the question.
Okay. Anyone will say one sentence to Geoff? Okay, Wenhua. You didn't open your microphone.
Okay, Geoff, thank you. Your book. I think that me from be good to be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, 哈尔吗？好 ，Sunny。
Hi, Geoff. This is Sunny. I would like to thank you because your book, you're sharing your experience and give me the many encourage in my team, my company, and my life. So thank you very much.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
好，还有人吗？最后机会了啊！好，没有，我要散会喽。OK，Geoff, thank you for your time. I think we are so exhaust your time, so we will finish this meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Roger. I can't wait to get a copy of the book.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and see you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.